Once upon a time, there was a vast and prosperous kingdom. Golden fields of wheat stretched as far as the eye could see. Sparkling rivers flowed through the land, but a dense and dark forest cut the kingdom in half. This forest was a barrier to trade and travel. People journeyed in bullock carts during the day. Others rode on sturdy horses or in elegant chariots. The sun was their guide, and its warmth kept them company. But as soon as the sun began to set, fear crept into their hearts. The forest held many secrets. Wild animals roamed within its depths, but the villagers whispered of something far more sinister, lurking in the shadows. They spoke of demons that haunted the forest paths at night. Travelers told terrifying tales of their encounters. They described eerie howls and strange, flickering lights. Some claimed to have been attacked and injured. Their belongings, they said, were scattered and stolen in the darkness. Fear spread through the kingdom like wildfire. People became afraid to travel after sunset. Trade dwindled. Families were separated, unable to visit loved ones who lived on the other side of the forest. The king, a kind and just ruler, heard his people's cries for help. He was a brave warrior, but even his heart trembled at the thought of the forest demons. He knew something had to be done. The king summoned his advisors. They met in the grand hall of his palace. There they debated how to solve the mystery of the forest and rid it of the demons that plagued it. The king's advisors were proud and learned men. They puffed out their chests and stroked their beards as they offered their counsel. Some suggested sending a large army into the forest to hunt down the demons. Others proposed building a wall around it to keep the evil contained. The king listened patiently. He could see flaws in each of their plans. Sending an army into the dark and unfamiliar forest would be risky. Building a wall would be costly and time-consuming. He longed for a simpler, more effective solution. Days turned into weeks, but the king remained undecided. The mystery of the forest demons deepened. The people grew increasingly desperate. Then, one day, a whisper of hope emerged from an unexpected source. An old woman from a distant village arrived at the palace gates. She claimed to have the solution the king desperately sought. The old woman was hunched with age. Her clothes were simple, and her face was etched with wrinkles that spoke of a life lived under the sun. But her eyes sparkled with a sharp intelligence. The guards, skeptical at first, were taken aback by her confidence. Word of the old woman's arrival reached the king. Intrigued, he agreed to grant her an audience. Perhaps this humble woman held the key to solving the kingdom's problem.
Your Majesty, I have heard the tales of the forest demons. I believe I can help you rid your kingdom of this menace once and for all.
Tell me, old woman, what is this plan of yours? How can you succeed where my strongest and wisest advisors have failed?
The old woman smiled, a knowing glint in her eyes.
Your Majesty, there is no need for armies or walls. The solution lies in understanding the nature of these so-called demons. They are not supernatural beings, but simple creatures of habit.
She leaned closer to the king and whispered,
They are monkeys, Your Majesty. Mischievous monkeys who delight in frightening travelers and stealing their possessions.
The king's advisors gasped and scoffed.
Monkeys? How could the old woman suggest such a thing?
But the king, desperate for a solution, listened intently.
I have a plan. Provide me with a large quantity of sweetmeats and colourful trinkets. I will use them to lure the monkeys away from the forest path.
The king was skeptical, but he was also out of options. He agreed to the old woman's request. The king announced to his court that the old woman had a plan to deal with the demons. His voice echoed through the grand hall, filled with nobles and advisors who had long been searching for a solution to the kingdom's plight.
I order my subjects to provide her with everything she needs. Let no resource be spared, for our future depends on her success.
The people were both confused and hopeful. They had seen many attempts to rid the land of demons, but none had involved such an unusual approach. They wondered how this frail woman could possibly succeed where their king's armies had not. Whispers of doubt and curiosity spread through the village like wildfire. Wagons piled high with sweets, toys, and brightly colored cloth arrived at the old woman's village. The villagers watched in amazement as the goods were unloaded, each item more vibrant and enticing than the last. She accepted them with a grateful heart and a twinkle in her eye. Her calm demeanor and gentle smile reassured some, but others remained skeptical.
Look at all these treasures. How can she possibly use them to chase away demons? They marveled at the assortment of items, each more curious than the last.
The villagers watched in awe and anticipation. They gathered around, eager to see what the old woman would do next, their hearts filled with a mix of hope and doubt. Under the light of the full moon, the old woman set out for the forest. Her steps were steady and sure, guided by a wisdom that seemed to transcend her years. She was not afraid, for she knew the forest held no demons, only mischievous monkeys with a fondness for sweets. The night was alive with the sounds of nature, but she walked with purpose. She scattered the trinkets along the forest path, creating a trail of irresistible treasures. Each item was placed with care, forming a path that glittered under the moonlight. The monkeys, as the old woman had predicted, were drawn to the bright colors and delicious smells. They chattered excitedly, their curiosity piqued by the unexpected bounty. They abandoned their posts in the trees and swarmed the forest path. The once quiet forest was now filled with the playful antics of the monkeys, who followed the trail deeper into the woods, leaving the village in peace. In Section 7, a feast for monkeys. The monkeys feasted on the sweets and fought over the toys. They were delighted by the unexpected bounty, their eyes gleaming with joy as they devoured the treats. The jungle echoed with their playful screeches and laughter, a stark contrast to the usual silence.
The old woman watched from a distance, a smile spreading across her face. She had always known the power of a simple act of kindness. Her heart swelled with warmth as she saw the monkeys enjoying themselves, their happiness a testament to her efforts. The forest, once a place of fear and dread, echoed with the sounds of monkeys chattering and playing. The transformation was nothing short of miraculous. The once menacing jungle had become a sanctuary of joy and peace, a haven for both animals and humans.
For weeks, the monkeys were too busy enjoying their newfound bounty to bother with travelers. They were preoccupied with their games and treats, leaving the forest paths safe for anyone who ventured through. The change was palpable, and the villagers began to notice. The old woman returned to the village every few days, replenishing the supply of treats and trinkets. She became a familiar sight, her baskets always filled with goodies for the monkeys. The villagers admired her dedication and the positive impact she had on their lives. Word reached the king that travelers were no longer being harassed. The news was met with relief and curiosity. How had such a drastic change come about? The king was eager to learn more about the mysterious benefactor who had brought peace to the forest. The forest was safe once more, the paths were clear, and the air was filled with the sounds of nature rather than the cries of distressed travelers. It was as if the jungle itself had been reborn, a place of tranquility and harmony. He was overjoyed and summoned the old woman back to his palace. The king wanted to personally thank her for her efforts and understand the secret behind her success. His court was abuzz with anticipation as they awaited her arrival. The king showered the old woman with praise and rewards. He was deeply grateful for the peace she had brought to his kingdom. Her actions had not only protected his people, but had also restored a sense of safety and well-being. He declared her a hero and showered her with gifts of gold and jewels. The court watched in awe as the king honored her, recognizing the profound impact of her simple yet powerful deeds. Her humility and wisdom were evident to all. The old woman accepted his gratitude humbly, but her eyes held a secret. She knew that true wealth was not in gold or jewels, but in the happiness and harmony she had helped create. Her smile hinted at the deeper wisdom she carried within her heart. Section 8. The Truth Revealed. One day, the king decided to visit the forest himself. He had heard countless tales of the demons that once haunted the woods, and he wanted to see the place with his own eyes. He wanted to see firsthand the spot where the demons had once terrorized his people. The stories had been passed down through generations, and the fear was still palpable among his subjects.
He rode through the forest, but he found no demons, only monkeys playing amongst the trees. The forest was serene, filled with the sounds of nature, not the cries of tormented souls. He also noticed something else. The remnants of the old woman's trickery. The forest floor was littered with clues that hinted at a grand deception. He saw colorful bits of cloth, broken toys, and scattered sweets. These were not the remnants of a demonic presence, but rather the tools of a clever ruse. The truth dawned on him. The demons were nothing more than a fabrication, a story spun to manipulate and control. He had been tricked, outsmarted by a clever old woman. Her cunning had turned the tide of fear and superstition in the kingdom.
The king was furious at first. He had been made a fool of. His pride was wounded, and he felt the sting of betrayal. He had showered riches on a woman who had deceived him. The wealth he had given her now seemed like a mockery of his own gullibility. But as his anger subsided, a grudging respect began to grow in his heart. He realized that her deception had been a necessary one, a means to an end. The old woman had solved a problem that had plagued his kingdom for years. Her wisdom and cunning had brought peace where there had been chaos. She had done it without violence, without bloodshed, and without costing the kingdom a fortune. Her actions, though deceptive, had ultimately been for the greater good, and the king could not help but admire her for it. Section 9. The Old Woman's Wisdom. The king summoned the old woman once more. When she stood before him, he did not berate her. Instead, he asked,
Why? Why did you deceive me?
Your Majesty, I did not deceive you. I merely used what I had to solve a problem. You were so focused on demons and monsters that you failed to see the simple truth. The monkeys were the real problem, and they were easily solved with a bit of cunning and a lot of sweets. Sometimes, Your Majesty, the simplest solutions are the best.
The king, humbled by the old woman's wisdom, laughed heartily. He realized that she had taught him a valuable lesson. Section 10. The Lesson. From that day forward, the king ruled with a newfound appreciation for simplicity and common sense. He learned to look beyond the obvious and seek out practical solutions. The tale of the clever old woman and the forest demons became a legend, passed down through generations. It served as a reminder that wisdom can be found in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes the best way to solve a problem is not with brute force, but with a clever mind and a touch of humor.